All right, Naut. Well, thanks for taking the time to speak with me. First things first, man. Just want to check in. How's your day going? It was sunny where I am. How is it for you?
Oh, it's a very moderate grey English day over here in the northwest. Just as I like it. I like the summertime, but the heat kind of beats me down a bit. But I'm well today. Just dusting off the hangover. Caught up with some old friends last night. This is where I grew up, but obviously with the pandemic, I've not been here in like forever. And, not seen my parents in so long, so it's been really nice to come home and caught up with some old friends last night, but had quite a few ales, so I'm just
amazing.
Just coming back to life now.
Oh no, that's awesome, man, because obviously you brought it up as well. I mean, we've been checking with everyone we've spoken to during this period, this past 18-ish months. How have you been holding up personally throughout the COVID times?
Yeah, sure. I always say I can't complain too much. I think my situation, but I've worked a lot, so I tried to sort of make the best of it. I remember like just before it happened, I used to be a chef and I really wanted to kind of make a career change. And with the band and everything and having a full-time job and everything in life, like I was finding it really hard to find time to sort of activate that. And so the pandemic kind of it came at a good time because I was able to leave that job and get a new job. Like I was forced to have time. So obviously, global situation is awful, but I was managed to move into a new career, and because of that, I was able to work through all the pandemic as well. So I work outdoors, so I didn't get the same cabin fever experienced by most. So I really count myself lucky for that. So my girlfriend was working from home, and I think she found that quite hard, and I know that I would have done as well. So yeah, I mean, I try and like look at the positives, keep myself sane. So I was able to focus more on getting this album done that we were going to talk about today, and yeah, just kind of like focus on some different aspects of my life that probably I wouldn't have had time to focus on had it not happened. So rather than focus on all the obvious things that suck about it, I just try and hold on to that. And I'm thankful that that things weren't worse for me, because I can think about a lot of other people's situations, or people I know, or just hypothetically, that it must just be like so hard for so many. So I try not to complain too much.
No, I understand it as well, and it's strange. You almost have like a guilt complex, right? That effectively you have some positives to take out of this period, but because ultimately it's such a negative scenario, you kind of don't really want to talk about it, which is a shame, because ultimately that's fantastic news.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just so the whole thing just felt and feels so alien. Remember at the start of it, I mean, I'm not really like a type of person to panic, but I just thought like, wow, this is just, things just felt so strange. Especially like, remember like my first couple of months being on furlough, and I was living in Manchester then, and that those first 2 months before I got a new job was like the kind of experience of it, like staying indoors and sort of only go to the supermarket or whatever. But I seem to remember thinking that like because of that, like everyone was going to the supermarket, like going outside and just seeing like huge lines for the shop, like masked up and sort of distant single file lines. It just feels so dystopian. So it was as an observer kind of interesting, but it's also just so weird. And I guess as it wore on, like probably a lot of people felt this way. You started to feel like it was never going to end. And I think things never really will be the same. But I mean, like really, like there's a point where I thought, like, am I ever going to go on stage again? It was I had to force myself to keep motivated. I think because I think there are times like you feel like not giving up, but like like we're working towards music or whatever. It's like, well, what am I doing here? Like, is there really any like prize at the end of the rope here? But no, I think between myself and the other guys in my band, like on that angle, like we've been able to sort of support each other and actually sort of come together through this and find different ways of working. And yeah, it's just been such an odd thing. But like I say, I just do my best to focus on what's good, because I feel like that's all you can do in when there's a lot of negative out there in the world, you know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And of course, as well, we got to talk about the professional side of things, because obviously the COVID pandemic has had myriad effects on, well, there's no artist that hasn't been affected in some way or another. You guys, Necronautical, and the work on the brand new album, how much of an effect has it had on that, really? Or have you been able to kind of circumvent the issues easily?
Well, obviously we've been able to circumvent them, but I wouldn't say it was easy.
Okay.
But we found ways around it. Well, with writing the album, just like right after the release of our last album, Apotheosis, like we sort of had this surge of inspiration anyway. And so actually before the pandemic hit, we had most of this new album written. We were really pretty ahead of the game with it. And so I think it was like March. We were out in Portugal. That was the last gig we played, actually, with Akakaka.
Wow.
And you know, it was a great last gig to have played, actually, because it was a really good one, really nice experience. And you know, to be in a nice country like Portugal, it was like holiday kind of. Went to the beach the day after, and yeah, it's great. But yeah, I remember talking then, like, wow, you know, we're pretty much ready to start rehearsing this and booking studio and stuff. And then it all hit, and like, well, maybe not. But I think for myself in the first place, I was like, well, I want to carry on with this because, well, it's something to do. You know, you'll know yourself, and any musician knows, like an album is a huge body of work. And well, I thought there's no shows to play, and I've got time on my hands. So, you know, I'm one of the I'm responsible for the sort of orchestration in the band that goes on there. And you typically, historically, I'd have done that after we recorded, like all guitars and everything. But I thought, well, I'm not going to see the guys for a while, so I just did that. In those first few months, I just really focused on that. I put this like loads of detail into that aspect of things, the sort of orchestration, soundscaping. Because I had the time, put more effort in. You know, did a bit more sample creation, a little less out of the box kind of sounds, and just sort of focusing on enjoying that. And yeah, so we sort of resolved that, you know, like we'll work around the rules, and that was frustrating because things kept changing. But we were like, no, we'll book a studio, and hopefully we'll have a new album ready to release at the end of all this. And well, we were right, because we feel like we were just about to play our first show back, and the album is just about to come out. So what was tricky really was recording it.
Yeah.
We couldn't see each other. There was a time last summer where like meeting like another person was permissible, and like our rehearsal space like opened like for a couple of months, but we couldn't all go. So I just met Rob, or Slug, our drummer, and we just sort of went over these songs, and he showed me the beats he had in mind, and we kind of worked into that a little bit, and then, you know, everyone in the band, you know, we've been doing this a while. They know what they're doing. They're all excellent musicians, so I never stress too much about that. There's a lot you can do these days with obviously just what you can do online, file sharing, home recording, to make things happen. So we just worked around it that way. Like, you know, James got a little interface, recorded guitar parts like that. I record a lot of the Necronautical stuff myself anyway, and then we take it to the studio for like a mix and a few final tweaks. So we basically just did that way. We just sort of communicated, you know, through WhatsApp or whatever. Writing the lyrics was funny because myself and our bass player, like, he's the main lyricist, we both he works for the Royal Mail, I work for DPD, so we're both delivery drivers, and we were doing the lyrics basically like whilst we were working, just like with voice notes on WhatsApp, just like we were talking about, just thinking about it, just little song titles here and there. And like, and then when I actually came to write the lyrics, like we had this kind of stream of consciousness kind of soundboard on WhatsApp that we were using, and some of it was just like ridiculous and really funny, but it was in a way obviously not fun, but it was very different and an interesting challenge to make an album under these circumstances. And we had a studio time booked, and yeah, like it just managed to sneak through before lockdown restrictions changed again. And so we managed to get it all done. It was such a fluke though. Like really, like a couple of days after we were done in the studio, like it was no longer permissible to do that. So so yeah, that's the story of making the album, and it was so odd to do it, but yeah, and you know, I think that had things been different, we would have liked to have been together more and jammed it more and done it more collaboratively. But still, I think it's quite cool that we were able to do that, and you can use the technology to work in these ways. And I think that a lot of bands have been doing that. Home recording is pretty accessible now, and hell, I mean, like this whole thing for anyone for getting bands, like it would have been a lot harder and more isolating were it not for the fact that we can do stuff like this, Zoom calls or whatever, keep in touch. So yeah, I guess I'm thankful for that, and we just about managed to get the album done, and that's really kept us occupied, I suppose. So
yeah, of course. I mean, did you find though, because obviously you pulled off the road, you can't go out, you can't do things like that, you can't do part and parcel, a major part of being in a band, did you find that it gave you more time to kind of perfect and perhaps not cut as many corners as you maybe might have done in the past when it came to the new album, Slain in the Spirit?
Well, it gave us more time, but I mean, I think the only consequence of that really is that we got it done faster than we would have done otherwise.
Okay.
I imagine if we were still gigging and stuff, this might have. I mean, this will come out just under 2 years after our last album, which
it's really fast.
It's pretty fast especially for what we do, because there's tons of layering and like lots of vocals and orchestration and that does just take a little more time than doing let's say a raw black metal thing with like as a 3-piece or something. So I would have expected that to take a lot longer had we not had the time to do that. So we probably would have been having this conversation a year later had it not been for that. But as far as like cutting like putting more detail or anything like that, I don't think that's the case. I think we would have made it as detailed. It would have just taken longer. So it's cool to have done one quite quickly. But at the same time, like, we all really miss playing live. It's a huge aspect of being in a band, and it's the part of it that makes it feel real, I suppose.
That is true. Yeah. Of course, it's all good and proper releasing a great album, but if you can't follow it up and by going on tour, playing to live crowds, engaging that experience, it's almost like a mirage. I get what you're saying. You mentioned, like I said, you started writing this album quite soon after the previous one, A Hit of Inspiration. The final sound of Slain in the Spirit, how much of it differs from what you originally were writing back in the when you first started? Do you think like it was very much the final project is the same as what you kind of started with?
No, I think it's interesting how it develops. I mean, like the kind of bones of the song, which I would say is like the melodies and the riffs, like that's kind of what stays. So like when I finish the production, it's kind of like, well, these are what the song's going to be. So like structure and like guitar parts are kind of defined, but then what's interesting in making the album is just like how it develops as everyone adds their flair to it, so Rob will have a huge impact on the way the drum parts are, and a lot of that sort of we like to plan a certain aspect of it and then leave like quite a lot of it up to spontaneity as well, because if it's all meticulously planned, if you're recording an album which is very sort of pre-prescribed, it's a little tedious, because then you're just kind of like just trying to like hit a goal that's already there. We like to kind of leave wiggle room for creativity like through the entire process. So I think actually what's ended up being one of the defining features of the album, or something that hits you as a listener, is the addition of Victoria's vocals, and that was not really like a pre-planned decision. That was actually something that did come out of the kind of lockdown situation, because I know her. One of her former bands, I think they call it Clockwork Opera, had like opened for one of her very first shows, and we were watching just like, wow, she's got a proper classical soprano voice. That's really cool, So, and I remember in the lockdown just seeing a status she'd put up on her Facebook saying, well, I'm not got what's going on, I'm interested in doing some collaborations. I was demoing this album at the time, and I was like, well, we're working doing an outro for a song, and it was the song that ended up being a title track, Slain in the Spirit. And I really liked what she did. I was like, I showed the guys, like, oh, we're definitely gonna go through with this. And so we had it down to the studio to record that part, and we were doing Matt's melodic vocals then anyway, and the voice was so impressive that we just ended up being like, oh well, let's do this and this and this and this, and it was pretty much decided on the day. And then when you listen to the album now, I feel like those moments in the album when they are there, like they're kind of climatic points or focal points in the songs. So I think as a listener, that probably hits you as something that's quite defining of the sound of the album, which is interesting because it was such a spontaneous decision to do that. So
it'd be interesting.
So yeah, it's kind of half and half. It's like we sort of know where we want it to go, but I feel like after a while, like things just start to rotate on a life of its own, like lyrics and titles as well. That affects things. That's collaborative. Yeah, Matt, aka the Anchorite, like mostly does that. So I might have an idea of like how I want the vocals to go, but it always surprises me when I receive the lyrics because I never tell him how I want them to go because I like to hear a fresh angle on it. So he might come up with something fully different. In fact, he usually does, and then it's like, oh well. Okay, that's not what I had in mind, but like, cool, let's run with it. Or sometimes it's like, no, I want to do what I wanted to do. But yeah, so yeah, it's a bit of both, but we've been going more and more that way.
Yeah,
letting things be spontaneous because it's more fun. And you don't quite know what you're going to get at the end. So yeah.
That evolution then as well, like you talk about, 4 albums now, 4th one coming up, and the evolution of the spontaneity and stuff like that. Does that feel as natural as it seems? Because when you listen to every album actually up to this point, but I've kind of, I've had a spin on a new album, and this natural evolution of the band seems very natural. Is that the case for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, like it's something we want to do, and it depends how you perceive this evolution. But I mean, like I think actually part of the reason I said like we had a surge of inspiration after the release of Apotheosis, like it would surprise me if that didn't happen again. I think we have this inclination to react to what we just did.
Right.
And it's funny when you put an album out, you sort of see how people respond, and suddenly you see your work in an objective light, whereas I think when you're making it, you can't. And so, yeah, I love the Apotheosis record, but I remember like when it came out, I started thinking, like, this one's really vibey, and I kind of felt like, yeah, it's kind of moody, atmospheric, and my response to that was, I just want to make something that's way harder, just more full force. And the guys were on board with that, like, yeah, let's just like songs which are heavier, more aggressive, and just more full on, just like fully maximalist. And so yeah, like it's like being reactive, and so you sort of have this vague idea of what you want to do music, like okay, like we'll do whatever, but this one's going to be harder. So yeah, I think the evolution comes naturally because we don't want to repeat ourselves, and it's kind of like I feel like when we've done an album, it's almost like a certain itch has been scratched, and so we want to scratch a different one afterwards. But what's reassuring to us is that I still feel like, in spite of the fact that it's good that you feel the band's sound has evolved, because we don't want to repeat ourselves, but we still also feel that when it's all done, it still manages to sound like Necronautical, like it's not a departure. So I mean, I like to think of our band like as I think of bands that I'm a fan of, bands can let you down with like full like sonic departures and stuff. And I mean, that's a prerogative, of course. I wouldn't say bands shouldn't be doing this and that, but I do feel comfortable that whatever decisions we make, it's still gonna fit nicely under that umbrella of Necronautical that we created.
Yeah, so, you could basically play a song from your first album in a live environment and follow up with something from the new album, and it would still sound beautifully natural.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think so, and well, I mean, we will be doing that, and when we play we're going to play a lot of new songs live, at Bloodstock, for instance, and at the few shows we have coming up, we're going to be doing that, but we are going to be drawing from all the albums as we always do, because, well, again, like I just said, I like to think of it as a fan when I go and see a show, I like a mix, as I'm sure a lot of fans do. So yeah, I feel like those songs sit comfortably together, and it's interesting how they bounce off each other in a set list as well. Like hearing for example, Spits and Copper from the second album next to Slain in the Spirit, it's like, oh well, obviously you can't pair those songs on an album, but like it's there's fun interplay between that. And having more material to work with as well is great for setlist, because like I say, I feel like each album has its vibe, so you can play with that, like let's
the errors of Necronautical.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we can be like, okay, let's start with something intense, and then let's go into something more moody, and well, then back just intense, of course, it's still sheet metal. Yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to try and simplify, right? What is the overarching theme of the new album? With just one word, effectively spirituality in many different forms, right? So that's the most simplified version I felt I could describe it as. Is that correct? And can you offer a more long form version of what that means?
Sure. Spirituality is a pretty broad concept. It's cool that you took that from it. I would. It's interesting that you put it that way, because actually, like, before we go into an album, like, we kind of do that. I have a very simple overarching concept. I'd have said consciousness, or so our broad theme that we kind of decided on was to look at like altered states of consciousness,
okay,
and interpretations of that. So spirituality is one, because I mean, we sort of looked at like various altered states of consciousness, like and obviously the band name more broadly means to explore death. So you may be aware of this phenomenon, things that people talk about, like you hear as people are dying that there's kind of like a hallucinatory experience that goes for that. And we thought, like, wouldn't that be like a cool kind of lyrical angle for this album? Like, so it's supposed to kind of sonically represent the experience of like having a like out of body, like spiritual experience, like as you're dying. Pretty loose with that, like various lyric sets are based around different kind of altered states of consciousness. I mean, like, slaying the spirit means to be sort of overcome with spiritual feelings to the point where you're physically affected by that.
Yeah.
It's actually a term. It means, like, when like evangelical Christians or whatever are in church and they start speaking tongues and writhing on the floor.
Of course.
That condition is called being slain in the spirit. With us being a black metal band, we kind of played on that a little bit into making it something kind of sexualized with your love of God. So that's kind of the angle on that. But so similar to our other albums, to be honest, like, we kind of we like to look at like some sort of abstract experience like that, or something you might go through, and then kind of like emotionally interpret that. Kind of like to imagine that, like, I don't know, I guess I myself as the vocalist, as the voice of the album, like that I'm experiencing these things, and through doing that you're able to apply some emotion to it as well, which is important. We rather than just kind of having a topic and kind of hashing it out like an essay, music should be emotional, and there should be an emotional content. So it's kind of like we come up with the concepts and we try and put ourselves in those positions, either drawing from real experiences or just thinking on it, and just trying to attach some emotional gravity to that. It's important. I've always said it's important that we are standing behind what we say, and we have some kind of experience of it.
Fascinating.
So, yeah. Is it?
It is fascinating. It's naturally, because you start talking about out-of-body experiences and elements like that, people are naturally going to ask you, well, what's your personal experience of that? Have you ever had an experience like that?
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't talk so publicly about that. Yeah.
Let me give you.
I mean, like,
simple. Go on.
I mean, like, to be honest though, dude. I mean, we all do in ways. I mean, like the single Hypnagogia, that's about dreaming, right?
Yep.
And Hypnagogia, that word, it's this state. You'll experience this. I think most people have. Like, when you're falling asleep and you're half asleep and you jolt up, like,
oh yes,
yeah, it feels real. Like, when your dreams feel real, that's called Hypnagogia. And again, that's just another altered state of consciousness where your brain is effectively you know, you're hallucinating, so let's focus on that. So yeah, like those kinds of experiences, like, you know, they can be scary, but like also just like it's fully fascinating, the power of your brain to come to these kinds of things, and like dreams that feel real or that, you know, become significant to you. I mean, sure, they didn't happen in reality, but I guess your brain is your reality and they can still affect you. So it was a really interesting topic to work with and sort of to explore from various angles, for sure. But yeah, people do, I think. I mean, like, I imagine you may have done, like, just have these experiences that are harder to explain, that are not based in reality, but that, you know, your brain, that still makes it very real. So you still experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are people out there that, you know, that believe all these ideas of spirituality and religion and afterlife and this kind of thing, that actually they probably stem from this part of your brain called the pineal gland. Technically, Meshuggah did a song about it. So it's how I'm not that learned. I learned most of this information from metal, you know. But yeah, there's a part of your brain solely there to project the kind of visions, and people do interpret them as spiritual, you know, like ideas such as walking into the light, you know.
Yeah.
Some people call that God, but it's coming from your brain. Well, at least as far as science would tell you.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that's inspired countless media, not just music, you know, whether it be a horror movie, be a video game, be it a book, and it always will, because it's so unknown.
Sure, man. I mean, like, even like, you know, architecture, it's all around you. I mean, you're into Barcelona and seen Gaudi's cathedral. Like, that looks like a hallucination. It does.
It's not the sort of thing you want to walk in on when you're like drunk or off your face high or something.
Definitely. Well, depends what you're into.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
but I mean, like, you know, to see works like that, it mirrors those kinds of experiences anyway, I think. So you wonder if there's, you know, shared experience there anyway, or if maybe, you know, however you're getting at it, be it falling asleep, or I don't know, if you're into taking hallucinogens, or if it's a spiritual experience, or the process of dying, if maybe it's just different angles on the same thing. There are people out there that talk about this, that there is actually like kind of a spiritual place that exists like from this part of the brain that through various means we're all capable of accessing. And I just think that's well, we're not the first to have talked about it. I just think it's a really interesting subject, and also quite well, not fully unique, but it was certainly interesting for us and a bit different for us to work with that concept. And again, I think knowing we were going to do that, or we were developing the music as this sort of started to come up into discussion, you know, I think that impacted the way the songs were written and the kind of sounds that we went for. Like, you'll hear in the album, there's kind of like some sounds like Hammond organ used and stuff like that, and that's kind of referencing like this more sort of like psychedelic rock, from like 70s and stuff like that. It all plays into each other. So to have concept like that, you know, it inspires you musically as well, and just in fun little ways. Like, okay, well, let's try and get a little bit of that freaky hippie vibe in with the black metal, and just see what it does, you know, just see what happens.
Yeah, it's cool, man. So something more simple for you, and you're going to get a lot of this for a period, no doubt, in interviews. But relieved to drop the corpse paint?
That's a funny one. It's yeah, I think it feels kind of like a growth for us to have done that. It's hard for me to fully say how I feel about it because I haven't played live with it yet, and without it yet, sorry. And I think what I myself and certainly most of the other guys in the band liked corpse paint as a live aspect, because I mean, I used to play in a band called Ethereal as well. It was also wearing corpse paint, and that was like the first band I was in that really started to, you know, gain some momentum and start touring with whatever. And what I enjoyed about Corpse Paint was the kind of aspect of just preparation for a show. Like it, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, it changes me into someone else, but it does sort of kind of, it makes you feel enlarged, kind of empowered to do that. But I think maybe what's changed is maybe it's just a statement of confidence, because I just kind of feel like we all feel that we don't need that to feel the same anymore. Like maybe the space between the characters of Necronautical, the band, and who we really are, they're coming closer together. And I mean, we've been toying with the idea of doing it for a while, and the reason we did it in the first place is because we like Corpse Paint.
Yeah.
As black metal fans, I guess, like certainly as we were growing up listening to it, like for me, and a couple of the others, it added to the atmosphere, the music, added to the mystique of it. When I was a teenager getting those first like couple of Dark Throne albums, or what have you, or 1349, or any bands that I liked back then that were doing that. But also those were kind of different times. Like you were a little more distant from bands then. There was no social media, no those kind of interactions. And to be honest, it's actually hard in these times to achieve that mystique like through Corpse Paint, because like people will know who you are anyway. And
of course. And
sometimes you'll be in a venue, and it's a tiny little venue or something, and there's no dressing area, so you're doing it, putting your makeup on in the toilet, and some guy walks in to take a slash, and you're like, well, this isn't really the mystique we were hoping for. So yeah, I don't know, we'd sort of toyed with it for a while, and this time just sort of felt right now. I'm getting to my mid-30s anyway, and I just feel like there's no slight at all to bands that want to continue to do Corpse Paint. I think that's great, but for us, this just felt like the right thing to do. So it'll be interesting to play the first show without it. I hope that we're still able to put across as much atmosphere and ferocity. We're not going to strip it back. We've always played with like candles and fog and do as much as we can to set atmosphere as we can. That's a lot of the music is about, just building an overarching atmosphere. But we think that the Corpse Paint was part of that, but we're still going to aim to do that. It's just going to be, I guess, nothing on my face. so
some of the best and brightest black metal bands in the entire world look like, dare I say, normal dudes, or just walking out there in a black t-shirt and jeans and playing the most filthiest stuff.
Well, I just joined Winterfell as well. I don't know if you know that.
That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Well, yeah, I'm their new guitar player. Incidentally, that wasn't related to the decision. In fact, when we started talking about Corpse Paint, I almost said, actually, no, I want to keep wearing it because I don't want people to think it's because I've joined Winterfell. But just like, no, you shouldn't look at your band with influence from outside factors. We wanted to do it, and to be honest, if anyone was resistant to it, actually, it was me. Okay. But I've come around to it. It's just wanting the end result to still be dark and atmospheric, but I think it'll still go over.
It's the simple thing. If you are a super duper fan, like you're out there and you're your guy's number one fan, it's like basically getting a new haircut. I had long hair 3 weeks ago, and
no way.
Yeah, so that initial shock of people going, "Oh my god, he's shaved his entire head." That's what you're going to have. And then everyone's going, "Oh, that's fine. Cool. Carry on. You're the same person. You're the same band."
Yeah, you get used to it. That looks good, man.
Thank you.
Maybe I have seen you before with long hair. Maybe I wouldn't have recognized you. That's what I was thinking. Oh, maybe I met this guy, Adam. But yeah, because I hadn't seen you with long hair. I'm sure you look radically different, but I've just seen this impression of you. It's like, well, that's how you look.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
That's interesting. But I mean, no, I'm not worried about it from the band's angle. It's just it's only makeup at the end of the day. It doesn't.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a small thing, but I mean, like, yeah, people have mentioned it, and I've got a lot of friends in the scene that are very serious on that side of things, and they are good friends. I was not worried about what they think, but I was expecting some comments from just like, oh, like you're going that way now. Maybe that's going to be associated with some softer style or something. But actually, I've been surprised. Most people I thought would be negative about it have been like, yes, it's cool, you know, like, you know, we support this or whatever. So that's kind of like nice. But I'm not ever so worried about what people think anyway. But there doesn't really seem to have been any negative reaction to it, and even if there was, you know, we're entitled to do what we want to do. So
get over it, basically. And a lot of people will get the opportunity to see you guys like that at, of course, Bloodstock this year, taking place the 11th to the 15th of August. We'll be there. You guys will be there. How excited are you to be at Bloodstock this year?
Yeah, super excited, man. I mean, excited and well, I mean, like Winterfell we've already booked, so I was already kind of preparing for going. But with pandemic and everything, like you really started to wonder if this was going to happen. And to be honest, like for a while, I was kind of like more fingers crossed for the organizers, because I really respect and admire the fact that they pushed on with it anyway. When I think most people would not have. It's a huge risk if you know the ins and outs of it, you know. There's a lot of respect for that. And yeah, we only got the news that we were going to play recently, of course, because obviously this has become like a really British lineup.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're super excited, man. We've never played Bloodstock before. I mean, I have in my former band done that, and we've done some, you know, we did Inferno Festival in Norway. That's a big festival. So, but like Bloodstock is, well, you know, as you'd know, it's a really important show in the UK calendar, if not the most important. And I guess extreme metal or true metal, or you know, well, you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big deal for us, and obviously we've been to that festival many times. And obviously when you first start the band, like, you know, you look up at that stage and like, yeah, that'll be me someday, and here we are. So yeah, we're damn excited. It's been interesting because like the booking came short notice, and with the pandemic, we've only actually just started rehearsing.
Ooh,
not so long ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, we had our first rehearsal, and we're doing new material that is harder to play and pull off. But no, I mean, to be honest, like I like that intensity behind it, because I actually feel like some of our best efforts and events and have occurred like out of kind of frantic pressure, like a kind of against all odds situation. I feel like we kind of thrive on that. So we're not holding back with this show at all. We got Victoria, who did there's additional vocals on the album. We were like, well, we'll just make it special. We'll have her join us, and I don't want to say it'll be the only time that she'll do it, but she's going off to study to become a proper opera singer. So that's going to be the focus of her time, and because of that, I think she's retiring from her kind of life in the metal scene to focus on that, which is great for her, and she has the talent to do that. So, but this presents an opportunity. I was like, well, you can come and sing this and play this huge show with us, and for her, that's like a really nice send off for her time in the metal scene, and also it's something special that we can offer from our performance at Bloodstock, which you may not see again. So yeah, we're damn excited. I've practically moved into my rehearsal space. We've got a shared arrangement in our permanent room with Winterfell that we share, which is working great for me. But honestly, like, I'm there like quite a lot of nights now, just jamming. But I love it, so it's great. Yeah, we're super excited. Can't wait. Confident we're going to do something special, and yeah, it's going to be great. And I just, you know, even if I wasn't playing, it just makes me really happy that that's going to happen. And we're going to, and you know, I know how important music and metal music and the metal community is to me, and I know that tons of people, like, you know, certainly yourself, will feel the same way, and loads of people feel the same way. So it's just, I just think it's going to be so great, so refreshing to finally, for all of us who love this music, to be able to get back to what we love, you know. Like that's really important. So yeah, I'm super excited both to play and just to be back where I belong. You know? I had to ask.
I mean, obviously you're playing twice over the weekend. So are you planning to be there from the Wednesday onwards and do the whole 5?
I'd love to, man, but I gotta go to work.
Of course, fair enough. What about a band?
To be honest, like, I could have done, right? I've got these 2 shows.
Yep.
And I might go on Friday night, but my priority is performing well at the shows. And to be honest, like 3 additional nights in a tent before the shows
maybe drinking. I kind of need, I want to make the best of these shows as well. And also, like, with having two bands that are fairly busy going on, like, I've got tons and tons of touring commitments now, which is great.
Yeah.
But I got to hold the job down, so I try not to take the piss. So I'm having 3 days off. I'm going to go down maybe Friday night or Saturday morning. Winterfell Saturday, Necronautical Sunday, few beers Sunday night, and then back to the grind on Tuesday. So that's my plan. I'd love to go the full thing. I really would, but I'm hoping to protect my performance by not joining the fray till Saturday, I guess.
I think it's completely fair. It's not quite the 80s rock star life that a lot of people dreamed of when they're growing up to be musicians, but it is life and reality now.
Well, we understand the changes in the music industry, and well, hell, wouldn't maybe not have been my living in those times, but you know, we got to have jobs, and
of course,
and you know, I've got, you know, dependents, family, house to pay for, stuff like this. So, you know, this is life. I don't complain about it. I'm damn happy to be doing what I'm doing. And, you know, any musician doing this kind of stuff, like, you could look at it like a sacrifice, but you're not going to stop doing it. You do this because you love it. You know, don't do it for money or anything like that. And that should never have been the incentive anyway. People that want to do that will create bad artwork if that's your incentive, is to become successful. I think I'm just happy to be doing it. So yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's kind of sucks to miss a bit of the festival, but the only reason I'm doing it is because I've got more awesome metal stuff to do later, and so I'm not complaining about that. I know the other guys are going to be there earlier. Our drummer Rob, aka Slug, will be there all weekend, I believe, and our bass players, so they'll be around. But yeah, I'm going to take it easy and get down on the Saturday and do my bit to support my family as well, you know. So
absolutely.
That money coming in.
I got one more question.
I really can't wait. I really can't wait to go, though. It'd be great.
Oh, cool. And it's great. You're going to be doing, you know, you get to see you play twice. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?